Follow the money.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money.
Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Here we go. Welcome in. It is Follow the Money on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Mitch Moss along with Paulie Howard. We are live in downtown Las Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino for the next 3 hours following a very hectic weekend in the sports world and sports betting. Today, I think, has been actually nuttier than what we had over the last couple of days. And coming up today on the program, Nick Bogdanovich in 15 minutes. We'll get into college basketball with him. He'll be on for 2 full segments talking about tonight's card and also some of these conference tournament odds. Lou Finocchiaro will recap an insane beat that took place in the UFC over the weekend, NHL Best Bets and Pat Forty on the college basketball tournament. So we'll spread it out, get into the college hoops coming up quite a bit over the next 3 hours, but we will begin day one today, Paulie, of free agency in the National Football League. And I would say similarly to like every other recent day one of free agency, it has lived up to the hype with a ton of action, a ton of signings, big names moving, and still a couple of big names that are out there as well. And about an hour ago, Sam Darnold signed with Seattle. So they're going to be moving on. Obviously, that trade broke, I think, 10 seconds after we were done with the show on Friday.
Bad beat, yes. That
Geno was traded to the Raiders, 35 years old. So now to replace him, Darnold goes there to be their quarterback. It's 3 years, $110 million. He is 7 years younger than Geno Smith. They're saving $10 million per year, and now the team has 5 picks in the top 3 rounds. But, I mean, there's no Metcalf.
I don't know what they're doing. Same offer was extended to Geno. He said no. And then I don't think, he's mercurial. I wouldn't say he's that much of a diva, but they had enough of DK, and he goes to Pittsburgh. And now you give all this money to Sam. Can you protect him? And then now who's you throwing the ball to other than JSN?
It's going to be JSN. He's going to have a monster year this year. And I think with Kubiak as the new OC,
right?
Here's what they're going to do. This team, I believe, will completely commit to the offensive line with whatever they might be able to get in free agency, but certainly in the draft. And they're going to have Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet as their running backs. And this is going to turn into a heavy run offense because now that there's no more Lockett, there's no more Metcalf.
Yeah.
JSN, I think it can be awesome in this league, but they have a hell of a duo at running back, and that's what I foresee happening with that offense next year.
DK and Grubb didn't mesh. Grubb leaves. You mentioned Kubiak, the new OC. I just can't believe you're not blowing it up, but you're making so many changes when you were one play away the last 2 years from making the playoffs.
There must have been something there where Geno didn't want to come back at all, I guess. And then also, there's absolutely no feasible chance that you're going to go to war with Sam Howell.
Absolutely right.
He was the starting quarterback until today.
This is a tough sell, though, because you were this close to making the playoffs the last 2 years, and you give Sam all that money considering how the last 2 games ended. Horrific against Detroit. And horrific against in the playoff loss. So it goes back to, can Kubiak coach him up and perform an O'Connell miracle?
Yeah, so I don't hate it. I mean, honestly, they had to do something at quarterback. And I think now with the cap going up even yet again, I think this is just funny money that we can't really wrap our head. I mean, would you rather have this guy for 3 years, $110 million, or pay Justin Fields $20 million a year?
Well, just give me Sam. Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, so it's like, okay.
But you're right. You said it before the show. The Jets couldn't sign Darnold. You can't run that back, but my God, they go with Justin Fields now. And Justin Fields is going to be the Jets starting quarterback.
He's going to,
my God.
He'll be that. So he'll be a stopgap until, I can't imagine they're going to go quarterback in the draft at number 7. They lost an offensive lineman today. They're going to have to address the offensive line probably in the draft. Because otherwise, and this dude obviously has wheels, he's going to be running for his life behind there. I
would imagine Wilson has out. I don't know why he would stick around.
I would think so. If he's smart, he probably would.
I thought all these teams that were strapped for cash. And what happened? Rams don't have money. Stanley on the move. Patriots. Stanley stays. Right. All these guys stayed put. I thought everyone had this money to spend. And also the teams couldn't keep these guys, but the exact opposite happened here. What's transpired over the last couple of days. What do you think of the Raiders' move?
Of re-signing Max Crosby and then getting Geno Smith?
Yes.
I don't hate it, again.
That's not a bad option.
No, I'd say that, for everybody who was out there that the Raiders could have possibly landed, I'd say Geno Smith was about as good as it gets, right? I'd say that, the whole thing with him compared to Darnold, compared to Aaron Rodgers, I have no problem with Geno Smith going there at all. To reunite now with Pete Carroll, And could they go now wide receiver with number 6 overall? Now, here's the thing. Like, they do not have to go. People are going to say they're going to go Shedeur Sanders, number 6 overall. Why? Why do they have to go quarterback now? Geno played really good football last year, and I'll point this out. 14 starts with Seattle in a dome, 30 touchdowns, 5 INTs, a rating of 110.8, 36 starts outdoors, 25 at home, 43 touchdowns, 31 INTs, an 89.7 rating. So his play with Seattle when they were in a dome, he was fantastic. He was one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And now he'll be playing, more than half of his games on an annual basis here in a dome. So I think it's pretty good.
Okay.
Now, are they going to be better than a fourth place finisher in the AFC West?
Tough part. You're in a tough division. No doubt. I thought maybe someone would take a crack at Stidham. He's just going to back up Nix again. And you had that news, and now the other news is Rodgers is expected to go to Pittsburgh.
Okay.
How about that now?
Now, does that do anything for you at all?
I like it based on what the options were, yes. I'd rather... You couldn't have Metcalf Pickens on the same team with Fields as your quarterback. Or they'd lose their minds, be an insane asylum. Not to mention Art calling the plays. Be a disaster.
I would say behind closed doors, Rodgers might be worse.
Oh,
now you have to deal with Rodgers and the circus that comes with him.
Yeah.
And now if they keep...
Are you surprised that you got to be... Of all organizations to do it.
Well, if we get news today that Rodgers goes to Pittsburgh... Yeah, but again, this is musical chairs.
Uh-huh.
Who are they going to go with? Who's their guy?
Aaron Rodgers.
No, but I mean, if don't get him...
I know, you're running out. You have no options.
Russ is not going back.
Jameis Winston or something. I mean, I know.
And then where does Wilson
Tannehill,
go?
if you get him out of retirement, you don't have much to go with. I hear you.
I honestly...
Jacoby Brissett, please.
On the field, I'm okay. I think with Rodgers, Pickens, Metcalf, the combo there.
Yes, run the ball. Yeah, protect them. Good defense. Yeah.
Right, and he's played his entire life outdoors. So in theory, that should be bet. However, the problem is that division is damn tough.
Right.
So I don't know if they're better than
but they find ways to win games and play solid defense. And
I don't think
they got weapons. Yeah, I think that's a good move.
Nick, nobody's going to fall off the couch if they sign Aaron Rodgers and they win 10 games in their playoff team next year.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
But I don't want to bet them.
Right. They could be better than Cincinnati. You don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Cincinnati's a mess.
No,
and again,
they could be.
That's a great job by the Bills. Let's do this with Josh Allen. This goes up every year. God knows what it's going to be in a couple years.
Right.
Cincinnati and Dallas continue to wait, and they screw around, and it costs them dearly.
Isn't that
and
funny?
A lot of money.
Yep.
So the Bills did the right thing here, and it's a great job by Allen to help get talent and improve the roster. They signed Palmer today, and that's a great move by Allen. And other organizations like Dallas and Cincinnati wait, they screw around, and it costs them dearly. And then you can't build around the talent that you have, and then you're stuck, especially Dallas. Because Parsons is salivating now, too.
Sure.
After what happened, you called that after the Raiders gave all that money to Crosby, although I will give the Browns an F. That was stupid. You had an out. Garrett gave you an out. I demand a trade. Get me out of here. And they come back and they say, okay, we'll make you the highest paid non-quarterback in history. You needed to reload, redo everything, get picks for him, take a quarterback at 2, and blow this thing up because you're stuck with the worst contract in sports.
Well, now what do they do, by the way, at number 2? If Abdul Carter doesn't go number 1 overall, did they just say, screw it, we're going to team him up with Myles Garrett, and we're going to have like the best defensive line in football for the next 5 years, without question, and we're going to have an unstoppable force there on those 2 guys rushing around the edge? Right? Because I saw Matt Miller today at ESPN.com. He gave a grand total of 0 quarterbacks a true first-round grade.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't think... He says they're going to get drafted, but he goes, they're not first-round worthy quarterbacks coming out of college, watching the tape from like last year. I don't really necessarily disagree with that, to be honest. So if Carter doesn't go number 1 overall, and he's sitting there at number 2, that's a pretty tempting player to take if you're the Cleveland Browns, in my opinion.
I would take Ward. You got to move on from Watson, and you got to develop a quarterback and see what you can do and take this to the next level. And I know 2 years ago was an ultimate fluke, but then again, you gave this guy all this money, and then 2 years ago, they couldn't stop a nosebleed in road games.
Right.
So you have this great defensive player, yet why is your defense so bad in road games and how bad it was down the stretch? Your big move right, though, in your future ticket on the Rams looks even better. I mean, to get Adams, and now you have Puka, Adams, you gave I thought they didn't have any money. And then they got Atwell. They brought him back and gave him a ton of cash. Kupp's going to move on. 2 good tight ends. I mean, again, this team had Philly on the ropes, and now you get Adams. That's a great move by the Rams.
Yeah.
And it's laughable that you see the Niners at 12-1, and then the Rams were like 30-1. Now they're down to 20-22.
Yeah, they were, before the signing here at Circa, they actually bumped him up to 33-1, and they had him at plus 1650 to win the NFC.
Yeah.
And I had it dialed up in Q. I didn't. And then Adams goes there, and they since moved that number, obviously, so that's no good for me. I don't understand this price. I haven't bet it yet because I don't know if I want to tie up a division price, but they're plus 265 to win the NFC West. What?
Yeah, right.
The Niners are even money?
Uh-huh.
Are you serious?
Yeah, right.
That's outrageous.
Yeah, concur.
I would flip it.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't completely flip it, but I think the Rams should be the short shot to win that division. Also, Josh Sweat goes to the Cardinals.
Yeah, Philly's losing people.
So, yeah, they lost him. They lost Milton Williams to Carolina. Not great so far today for Philadelphia.
And the Bears have done a nice job.
Awesome with the offensive line.
That's right. Yep. All right, we want to help you out. Free VSiN Pro access through Selection Sunday. It's a big week here. 2 more tickets punched tonight. 4 tomorrow. 4 teams are already dancing. 3 for the first time ever. Every best bet, every host, every guest, the betting splits, the 24/7 video. Don't miss out. Free VSiN Pro preview. No cost, no commitment. Sign up now. Free access through March 16th. VSiN.com/championship week. Every conference preview is up there. All the picks. Hoops Peterson. Don't forget Mr. Cohen with the NBA as well. And Jonathan Davis, who did an excellent job. And he got Wes with golf, too. VSiN.com.
Heavy college basketball next. Sports Gambling Hall of Famer, longtime Las Vegas odds maker Nick Bogdanovich on the program. West Coast Conference is underway. St. Mary's and Gonzaga are laying a combined 34 points.
Follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Good to have you on board here on a Monday. We're live in downtown Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino. Busy hour lined up, 15 minutes. We'll go over some more of these conference tournament odds and the paths that these teams have to actually make a deep run. Going to be tough in some of the power conferences, obviously. Lou Finocchiaro, really, really bad beat over the weekend. Some NHL plays tonight from him as well. And today, Paulie, as well, day one of free agency in the NFL. And because of what happened on Friday, going back to the very tail end of our show, in fact, it ended, and then, look at this magical news happening at that time when Geno Smith was traded from Seattle to the Las Vegas Raiders in exchange for a third-round pick. Okay. Based on that move, well, Seattle had to go and get a quarterback at some point because Sam Howell was the only guy in the roster. So you can't possibly trot him out there next year. They signed Sam Darnold to a quarterback, the quarterback today, to a deal. 3 years, $110 million, 55 of it is guaranteed. So it kind of breaks down to like a 2-year deal overall. It's a lot of money.
Tough sell. Can't believe it. I don't understand what they're doing here. So you said you made the case earlier, more of a run-oriented team. You let DK go. Pittsburgh acquires him for the second-round pick and give him all that money with the extension. But that's, oh, boy. You were so close the last 2 years and had a good team. You were 1 play away from making the playoffs. And now it's Darnold and Metcalf's gone and Lockett's gone. And, yes, you have good running backs, but also Walker hasn't been able to stay healthy. Can you protect Sam? And also, the defense came on down the stretch. McDonald did a nice job. But what's that going to look like as well? But first things first, you have to give him some weapons and some pieces, even though you're armed with some picks. Yeah,
so I think the angle here would be, well, JSN is going to be taken probably very, very high next year, like in fantasy drafts. And I can't wait to see what some of his props are going to look like because he will be by far and away the number one target in that offense.
He also had plenty of weapons in Minnesota with a great coach. And then it ended. It was horrible how it ended.
Sure. I think this team potentially has a chance to be a really good under team next year. Kubiak's the new offensive coordinator. He was with Sam Darnold when Darnold was backing up Brock Purdy in San Francisco. And you know how much Shanahan and those teams love to run the football. I think with no more Metcalf, no more Lockett, and Walker and Charbonnet as your running backs, they will address the offensive line to make sure Darnold is going to have plenty of time to throw, and the pressure rate will not help him out. So they'll address the offensive line, in my opinion, And this is going to, and by the way, McDonald was already turning this defense into a really, really strong unit next year as a defensive guy. The defense will only get better. They're going to be a running team. I would look to play unders with Seattle right away to begin the season next year. That's how I would approach them. And then with Metcalf going to Pittsburgh and Justin Fields today signing with the Jets, two things there. So Fields is going to be the Jets starting quarterback as of this minute. $20 million per year for him. But the Steelers aren't possibly going to bring back Russell Wilson, right? So the rumors were out there today. They turned their attention to Aaron Rodgers.
That's going to be the guy, too. And there's a reason he was 2-1 at DK to go to Pittsburgh. Because you can't, you're right. If you pass on Rodgers, these guys are going to lose their minds, Pickens and Metcalf, if you have a below average quarterback and a guy that can't get him the ball, or at least isn't proven and can't throw it. That's why the stuff like, there's no way it was going to be Fields, because Fields wasn't going to be the starting quarterback once you committed all that money and gave up the pick to get Metcalf.
Right.
So good luck with it. Again, they win every year. I like the move. I think it's great for the league, but I don't have a problem if they're able to get Rodgers, and I think it's the best available with what you have to choose from.
What if they don't get him?
Then they're in trouble.
Do they go...
I don't know what they're going to do.
Daniel Jones?
I don't know. I would think Minnesota has to keep him now.
That's kind of what I would think.
Yeah, right. Jones and O'Connell has to be confident he can win with anybody at this point and go dimes until McCarthy's ready.
I honestly, like... And then, by the way, what... So if Rodgers doesn't agree with Pittsburgh and vice versa here, I have no idea what their next possible move would be. And then what is next for Aaron Rodgers? Does he go to the Giants?
Yeah.
Does he call it quits?
Why would he do that, though? The reports are that there's interest from both sides on the Giants. That's just, with that offensive line.
It's not going to end well. It's not going to go well at all.
No, come on. No.
So anyway, there is one. I'm looking right now at Pro Football Focus. They are grading all of the moves that happened today on day one of free agency. So far, from scanning this link, they have given one move a grade of elite, as they called it. And it happened since we came on the air. And that was a deal between the Houston Texans and the Washington Commanders, as 5-time Pro Bowl offensive lineman Laramie Tunsil has been traded to Washington, a PFF grade last year of 76.5. And as I said, they called it elite. And they just talked about basically in his career how he is one of the most valuable and one of the best offensive linemen in the entire sport. So really, really good move there from Washington.
The Bears also got Jarrett. Grady Jarrett.
Grady Jarrett to go along with the moves that they made on the offensive line.
Yes.
So we're talking about a brand new unit up front for the Chicago Bears. And that actually, if Ashton Jeanty is there when they pick in the first round, I'm not so sure he's going to slide by them. I don't think he's going to be there at number 12 for the Dallas Cowboys.
Are you there that Washington is close with Philly now?
Well, because
with all the moves they made, and Philly's lost a lot of people.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think you have to say yes, right? I mean, although they got buried in the NFC title game, they did beat them late in the season.
They turned the ball over a lot.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Weren't going to stop them, though.
How about that, though? They turned it over 5 times in the game, and they still won. But that's year one of Jaden Daniels.
I was also talking about the NFC title game.
Oh, yeah. With Kingsbury.
Yep.
And also Dan Quinn, and that defense can only, I think, get better.
Yeah.
So you're talking about some of those... some of the guys now who left Philadelphia, Josh Sweat to Arizona, which I really like that deal. Of course, Gannon, the former DC of Philadelphia, so he's going to reunite there. You could argue that Josh Sweat was like the MVP of the Super Bowl for the first half. He was so good, and he was all over Mahomes the entire time. They also lost Milton Williams. He went to the Patriots. So that's a couple of guys now no longer on Philly's defense for next year.
Yep.
And I think a team like Washington has inched closer to that team, and I certainly think the Rams are right there with them.
Yeah, I'm right. Let's do Cold Stone ice cream. Like it, love it. Like it, love it, hate it. Love what the Rams did. Again, you get Adams in the offseason they've had, and the numbers come down to 20-1 to win the Super Bowl. That's a great move. I like what the Raiders did.
I think it should be lower than that.
True. And I'm with you on to win the division. They should be the favorites. Like that the Raiders got Geno Smith.
Yeah, me too.
Landry to the Patriots. A good move. Stanley stays with Baltimore.
Yeah.
I like this sneaky. Kirk to Houston.
That's pretty good.
That's not a bad move either. I like that. Naomi Brown went to Jacksonville.
Was that a 1-year deal, I think?
Yeah, for up to $12 million.
That's like a bargain to me.
Yep. And Palmer to the Bills. to also tie into Allen doing his deal and helping them out as well, and that the Bills have him locked up for a long time now, and that's the right move to make, as you just see all these contracts are going to continue to go up, 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 and up for what these quarterbacks are going to get, and that's a great move by the Bills. And I like that Palmer's another weapon for Allen, too, much needed. Mm-hmm. And I hate what the Browns did. It was easy. He was giving you an out. I want to be traded. I don't want to be here anymore. So then, get a haul for him, get the picks, draft a quarterback, and rebuild, blow the thing up. Watson's off the books in a couple years. Well, at least, 2 years left. Then you move on from him entirely, and you're good. And you can get away from that monstrosity hanging over your neck. So that albatross. So that's awesome. But then you come back the other way after I want out. I can't do this. I don't want to be here. He wants a meeting with Haslam. Haslam tells him no. Talk to Barry. Then the Crosby contract happens, and then bam. Then they go out and give him the highest contract ever for a non-quarterback.
Right. You know what that's going to do? That's going to stick it to one of their division rivals, because the Bengals have already said they want to give Chase the most money ever for a non-quarterback.
It goes back to what I said earlier. Why are you waiting? Sure. It's costing you so much money.
Yes,
Cowboys do nothing. And then when they have a good player, they won't lock him up. It takes forever. They wait too long, and then they got to overpay. It's going to happen again with Parsons, and then Cincinnati screws around all the time.
That's right. So I'll give you a couple of other maybe not, well, call it sneaky, call it what you want. But Carlton Davis signing a 3-year deal with New England to team up with Christian Gonzalez. That is automatically one of the best cornerback duos in the entire league. I love that deal for the Patriots. And I think what the Buccaneers did today, too. Chris Godwin evidently turned down millions of dollars to go to a different team. And he stayed in Tampa Bay, 3 years, $66 million, so they can run it back with Baker Mayfield. That offense is going to be elite again next year. And now, assuming the guy's actually going to go out there and play, they also signed defensive lineman Hassan Reddick to a 1-year, $14 million deal.
Yep.
They are the class of that division, and so if they can stay healthy, the Buccaneers will be a playoff team and probably a threat in the NFC next year. They're good. And Mayfield is a hell of a quarterback. And it's funny the way it has worked out now, where Mayfield and Sam Darnold, taken in the same draft, played on the same team with Carolina not that long ago. Mm-hmm. Their paths are kind of like similar at this point. Darnold going down that Baker Mayfield path anyway.
Great point.
The Geno Smith thing, they're not going to win a Super Bowl, but that, again, the building blocks here for the Raiders in place with Pete Carroll as the head coach. So this is not to win now, but with Brady now as the minority owner, and you get Carroll as the head coach and Geno Smith in as a stable quarterback at 35 years old, I think this team, it sets up to be in a good spot in 2 or 3 years down the road, is what we're talking about with the Raiders. And then they can be more competitive in that division, a playoff team, et cetera.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Want to know where the money's going? Only VSiN gives you betting splits from Circa and DK. Unlike other sources, our data comes directly from the books, showing where the sharp action lands. Circa takes big bets from pros, as Nick Bogdanovich just told you, while DraftKings offers a broader market view, giving you insights in the wagers that move lines. See the percentage of bets first handle on every game across major sports to make smarter bets. Get exclusive betting splits through Selection Sunday for free. VSiN.com/championship week. Everyone loves the betting splits. VSiN.com/champ week.
Yep, conference tournament odds are up next. We will share the numbers and the paths some of these teams have to get to the title game with. That's coming up on Follow the Money. It's VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Welcome back. We're live downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort Casino. Lou Finocchiaro joined the program on Friday. We went down the entire card in the UFC with his best bets. And one of the fights was Marshall versus Santos. And it is my understanding that a bad beat doesn't even really qualify here. That doesn't do the fight justice overall, Paulie. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
It's highway robbery from my understanding. And Lou Finocchiaro pops on the program now. He's on the progressive guest line. You had a great card overall. But can you explain why this decision was so bad by the judges, Lou?
Well, it doesn't take that experienced a person to be able to watch two gentlemen fight. And if you do it for a passion or for a living or just for a pastime, most of the time you'll see who won. This was a competitive fight, that the young man Marshall won surely the first round. The second round, I could easily see going to the young man Santos, who made a reaction. And then the third round, clearly, at least in my judging, went to the young man Marshall. Now, yes, I did have bets on him. So people will say that can cloud your judging. Okay, be that as it may. However, when there are questionable decisions like this, the first thing I do is go to MMA Decisions, a webpage that'll show you that the people, at least the press people sitting ringside, cage side, will give their rendering on how they see the decision. If I believe it's one way and I'm adamant about it, I can check that webpage. And if I see that the press is 50-50, maybe I need to look at it again. In this case, for this fight, there were 13 press people that scored the fight, and everyone had it for the young man Marshall. Is really just a sickening case of bad judging, and what it does to the kid, it's so discouraging to this young man. He changed camps, he did everything right, he went out there and he earned the victory, and meanwhile they gave it to the wrong man. It's unfortunate. These things happen. If I had a nickel for every time this has happened to me in the last 45 years, I'd be Warren Buffett, for crying out loud. It's just part of the game, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, I would say like the live betting odds, though, right?
That's right. That tells the story.
Yeah, it does, right?
Usually the live betting odds tell the story, but if you're a gambler like me sitting there watching these lines in between rounds, there's surely a lag in live betting. I'm sure the basketball players and the people that are live betting other sports will tell you the same. But there's a lag. They can only do, and they can only react so much. That being said, I do think that a decent barometer in the middle of the third round of a 3-round fight that's going to decision, that you can tend to trust those live betting odds, and they were obtuse as well.
That's right, as high as 13-1. Does this vary by state, or are there just shenanigans all the time in this sport, or is there one state that sticks out?
Oh, no, this is a statewide phenomenon, Paul, and that's because the UFC, unfortunately, has to live under the umbrella that is state fight commissions, and those are all umbilical to the worst word, the most vile word I could mention on live TV, and that's boxing. And that boxing filth permeates down into somebody's cousin's uncle's brother is now a judge, and he makes his living or a supplemental income by being a judge for X, Y, and Z state. And in many cases, these state commissions assign people. They're not elected, and they're not put there based on merit or the understanding of the sport.
So, and you've given this out several times on the show, to win by split decision, and those pay well. Those are high. So if you're looking at maybe over 2.5 minus 250 or higher, is that a way to attack it? Maybe I can come back and take a 6, 7, 8-1, something like that, depending how big the dog is. When you're talking about,
of course, and that's a great observation, and you've seen me do that here in the show. Is what I try and predict. What you're going to see me do more, because when I see these high 2.5 over fights that tend to go to decision, maybe rather than predict majority or split decision, I'm going to start using that points handicap, because really the way I used it for Marshall was I really felt strong we were going to get his best effort. And even if he lost a split decision because he fought his rear end off and did a great job, I walk away a winner, and I can live with that. Little did I know that he would get the 3-0 from one judge. It didn't matter at that point what happened, because the points was a winner. So I'm going to start using that points handicap when I can try and set my watch to a good fighter in a fight line to go over 2.5 heavy. I'm going to use that points handicap and try and get plus money that way. I may not get the 3-1 or the plus 190 on the fighter that I would have originally gotten, taken him straight up, but I insulate myself against that judging.
Good observation.
Yes.
Follow the money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Our guest, Lou Finicaro, he's on the Progressive Guest Line. His write-ups for the UFC card are always on VSiN.com for all of the cards that we have. How many times do you think on an annual basis does that happen, though, where you have a $13 favorite near the end, live betting, that kind of thing, and, okay, look at this, he lost.
Last year, it happened to me about 4 or 5 times. I had a funny year last year. Part of it was me, but part of it were some funny happenings. And it's not only a bad decision. It's how about your underdog is out there painting the other guy's fence, and then they do a kick, a low blow kick, and the other fighter knows he's getting his fence painted, and he stays on the ground, and they call it a no decision. I mean, I had 2 of those last year. You make you want to jump off a bridge.
Oh man,
that's allowed. If he can just say embellish the injury.
Those circumstances presented themselves, whether it was early second round or whatever the fashion of the circumstance was. That's how the fight ended, and it was my guy that was good. It was really just very disheartening, but it's part of the business. We've done this. We're all big boys. We've done this a long time. You just got it. All it does is, make you a little bit more callous and a little bit more cold as you try and forge ahead and find winners.
It's like a LeBron-esque flop like they do inside the octagon.
They're going to give you all the time you need to recover.
Sure. You're also big into the NHL this time of year. It's a small card tonight, but do you have a best bet at all?
I couldn't find anything tonight, guys, and I'll tell you why. I'm mired in playoff hockey, but I found one tomorrow, and I'd take it right now. Buffalo is on a West Coast trip right now, and they're facing, let me make sure I'm giving you the correct teams here. The Islanders are on a West Coast swing, and their third stop tomorrow's at the Kings. They struggle scoring. They gotta go home after being on the road a week. This is a bad spot for the Islanders. And when the Kings have it their way, they're gonna beat you 2-0 or 2-1. So this under 5.5 is already minus 120 at DraftKings. I mention it now because I'd take it now. And I also looked at under 4.5. That's plus 210. That's what I'll give out. It's a game tomorrow, and that's how I try and look at hockey games for unders, and that's very difficult to try and accomplish when it's regular season hockey.
It's good, though. I like it. Looking at alt totals in the NHL with Lou Finicaro. Creative. Fan of that. Lou, thanks for the time. Sorry about that loser that ultimately came on your card, but the other winners were there, obviously, and you had a great card overall, but that one really, really stung.
Thanks for the UFC support, guys. Doing a great job, and good luck to everybody.
Thanks, pal. There you go. He was on the Progressive Guest Line.
What a day. What a weekend. Cole could be out for the year, and it doesn't even make the card today with the show rundown. Wild.
Can I give you a rundown quickly, though, of the Yankees, as long as you brought it up?
Uh-huh.
I would actually say this is this run is worse than the Dallas Mavericks. What a tweet. John from Maspeth. He sounds like a caller in the WFAN.
Yeah, dog.
Jacoby Ellsbury, $68 million to not play for 3 years. Luis Severino was paid $53 million to start 44 games in 5 seasons. Aaron Hicks was paid $30 million to be released early. DJ LeMahieu is getting paid $45 million for a negative WAR season and on pace to be released. Giancarlo Stanton is getting paid $86 million to miss the majority of the next 3 years. Garrett Cole is getting paid $180 million to be damaged goods and a shell of his former self. Carlos Rodon is getting paid $162 million because he had consecutive 5+ WAR seasons before his contract, and then he followed that up with a combined 1.1 WAR in his 2 seasons with the Yankees. That is difficult to pull off. I mean, I think they're almost telling the Dallas Mavericks, hold on to my bottle of tequila here, because it's going to get ugly. I mean... And the Red Sox odds, for example, after this Cole news, they were plus 450. I'm staring at it for a week. I never bet it. The best you can find right now on the Red Sox is like plus 360. Is that 90 cent change? Is that still worth it on the Red Sox?
I think so, yeah. Some places move the win total 4 or 5 wins. dropped it.
Incredible.
The guy's out a year and a half.
Yeah, we'll get into a college basketball and the results from the blackjack tournament this weekend at Circa next.
Follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Welcome in. We're live in downtown Las Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino Championship Week, baby. Some would argue better than next week. And we'll start this hour talking college basketball as the great Pat Forty joins the program now. You can read him at Sports Illustrated. He's on X at @ByPat40, and he is on the Progressive guest line. As always, Pat, thanks for the time today. How are you?
Doing great, guys. Happy March to you.
Back at you. So of the teams at the very top of like any power rankings that you're going to look at, the Dukes of the world, Auburn, Florida, Houston, maybe throw Tennessee in there. Is there a team on that list that you're not fully on board with going into the tournament?
Oh, yeah, this is crazy because I've basically advocated for Auburn to be the number one overall seed, but little concerned. They're taking a 2-game losing streak into Nashville. We'll see how they do there. And this is a team that I think is overachieved based on preseason expectations. And so have they hit a ceiling, and now are they in danger of regressing? And the other X factor there is Chad Baker-Mazara, who's a fantastic player, but never stops getting himself into stuff on the court, whether he's running his mouth or he's throwing elbows. He's been tossed out of games. He got thrown out of their NCAA tournament game last year against Yale early, and they lost. And when you've got an important player who is that volatile, I worry. I don't see him losing in the first round. They're not going to lose a 116 game, not with that level of talent. But round 2, there's starting to be some cracks show up there that a good team could exploit.
You wrote about this, and again, you're a must-follow on X. How about Duke, which the timing and the calendar and the unfortunate part of this sport where he can't do both jobs at the same time, Duke loses their key assistant, Lucas, who takes the Miami job because the portal starts the 24th of March.
Yeah, that stinks. It really does. I don't like that. And, in retrospect, in writing that, I might have let Jay Lucas off a little easy there. I think that you've got a chance to be part of a national championship, and I get it. It is tough. It is not convenient. Their season is over, so that job is available right now to start doing the work. They introduced him today, in fact. But boy, you are walking away from a team that you've been with and a chance to win a championship and a key role with that team as a defensive coordinator, basically, for Jon Scheyer. And just reading body language a little bit. I was at the North Carolina Duke game. I think there's some players that are a little bit stung, feeling like, I can't believe this guy would leave now. And
yeah.
I mean, look, the reasons are there, but at the same time, is there a way you can construct a staff and say, hey, you guys hold down the fort. I'll work 16 hours a day or 20 hours a day, and half of that will be on Miami stuff, but I got to finish things out here at Duke. I don't know whether you could do it, but I would have liked to see him try. Well
said. Yep, absolutely. You're also spot on about Drake. And Drake wins the auto bid and wins the Missouri Valley. They're 30-3 on the season. A couple things here. Number one, do you think they were going to put him in if they lost? And number two, how interesting is it and wild that the fan base was upset at the hire after they lost their coach and they were called D2 Drake because they get their coach from McCollum from D2 and he brought like 4 of his players. Like I think 7 of the 9 guys they play hadn't played Division I basketball last year.
Yeah, it's wild. And there's no doubt that there's some fans that are probably doing revisionist history. Like, oh, yeah, no, I was happy we had them all along. Sure.
Yes.
But it's an incredible story. They are a really good team. You're 30-3 in a good conference. Missouri Valley is not a rummy league. And if you do that, and so they say they would have lost yesterday, maybe 29-4, and you don't get in, you have set the bar at an impossible level for every mid-major. You've basically just said there's nothing you can do that is good enough. And that would have just been a real shame. So I'm glad we don't have to even cross that bridge with them. because they took care of business and they're getting in no matter what now. And now, will they be a 10 seed? Will they be an 11? Whichever. If you're a 6 or a 7 and you're drawing them, good luck.
Yep. No kidding. I'll give you another team. So UC San Diego, incredible story. For what it's worth, they've been like the best team against the spread in college basketball all year long. I'm looking right now at Ken Pom and Bart Torvik, like just some numbers. They're top 40 in Ken Pom, and they're right next to North Carolina in both like sets of power ratings. Let's say Carolina loses right away in the ACC tournament and San Diego loses it in the Big West title game, and it comes down to those two teams. They have to go with San Diego over North Carolina, but I'm not confident that they would.
I know. That's what they have to do. And if they don't, it's an absolute crime. I mean, North Carolina has done virtually nothing this year. They beat UCLA in December on a neutral court. Congrats. But they've lost a lot of games, and they've had lots of opportunities. That's the one thing where I hear fans are like, well, UC San Diego is only 2-1 in quad one games. Well, they've only played 3 because nobody wants to play them. They don't get the opportunity after opportunity after opportunity that other teams do. Carolina doesn't win those games. They play a lot of them. Xavier doesn't win those games.
Right.
They play a lot of them.
Right.
And they got the chances that they got, and they took care of business when they had those opportunities. Drake was 3-0 against power conference teams this year. None of them at home. Nobody's going to Des Moines to play them. Nobody's going into UC San Diego's gym to play them. So you've got to do it away from home. And they've done it. I mean, UC San Diego's 27-4. As you said, their metrics are all great. And if they get left out because they lose a final to UC Irvine, that would just be a shame.
Right. You also wrote and tweeted this too, and you're right. These teams keep showing us who they are. Losing games and getting blown out. Like, we know your comparison to Virginia last year was spot on. They had no business getting in. They come stumbling into the tournament and got their asses kicked in the play-in game.
Yeah, I mean, they were awful last year in that playing game because they were an awful team. They were not good. I mean, that was abundantly clear. They kept getting blown out late in the season. And for them to have gotten in ahead of Indiana State, that was as mad as I've been over a committee decision in a long time. For the most part, I think they do a good job. But I thought that was blatant favoritism to a power conference team that hadn't earned it. And, if we'll see if they do it again this year. But there are teams like Texas. My goodness. I mean, could they play any worse down the stretch of this season? And, if they get in and a UC San Diego at, let's say, 29-5 is left out, I'll be disappointed.
Yeah. You've been on a heater the last month. Incredible reporting on the story with Sugar Shane. And we mentioned it on air, and I encourage everyone to read that and the incredible reporting at SI that you did. The other thing was your rant, too, on the pod, which your basement flooded with the timing. But the fact that the SEC and the Big Ten could be the ultimate villains here if they don't get their way and decide to do their own thing. Your thoughts and your rant on we want 4 automatic bids every year in a college football playoff.
Yeah, it's just, it is a criminal abuse of power, in my opinion, to try to guarantee you something that if you're just barely doing your jobs right, you should get anyway. You should get 4 teams in if you're the SEC or the Big Ten. But to rig it beforehand and say, this is the way it's going to be before the season even starts, and basically tell everyone else, your second-class citizens, third-class citizens, just completely rubs me the wrong way. And it's a continuation of them trying to marginalize everybody else. They've already changed the revenue distribution further in their favor. They're going to get more of the playoff money. They already get more of the TV money from their media rights contracts. So it's like, how many advantages do you need to have written in as opposed to just going out and earning it on the field? It's really bothersome. That's just kind of the trend of college athletics of, the people that have the gold make the rules. And I just don't like it for the good of the enterprise as a whole.
Well, and then to, go full circle here and tie in an expanded field for March Madness, if they go to 76 teams or whatever, as we talked to Jerry Palm from CBS like 2-3 weeks ago, he said they're not doing that to expand for VCUs of the world. So if we get, 8, 10, 12 more teams in this tournament, you can forget about having more of the little guys in.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Like if you look at most of the, like the projected teams out of the field right now, 75 to 80% or more, maybe even, are power conference teams. And so that's what the expansion is for the 12th team in the Big Ten and the 14th team in the SEC, and God forbid the poor ACC, the 4th, 5th, 6th teams from there. They are not looking to expand so that a team that has a really good regular season from a mid-major conference and gets beat in their conference tournament has a landing spot in the big dance. That is not the purpose at all.
If you were to plunk down a little bit of change here on any team to win the title, which team would you take a shot with?
I tell you, the one I think you could get a decent price right now is Florida. I like the Gators a lot. I think they're extremely cohesive, talented, well-coached, have all the pieces. Not, 5-star blue chip pieces, but really good players that they've put together. I think they've done extremely well in, a very, very tough league. And I think they're hitting their stride. They're going to be tough in Nashville and tough thereafter.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think they're awesome. You can always read Pat in Sports Illustrated and also follow him on X as well at @ByPat40. Pleasure talking to you as always, sir. Thanks so much for the time.
My pleasure, guys. Enjoy the month.
You too. There you go. He was on the Progressive Guest Line.
Like his colleague said, Dan Wetzel, well, the conference commissioners want this and the ADs and the coaches. Well, of course, they get bonuses.
Yeah, no
so
kidding.
It's like, I made the tournament. I made the playoff. I get a bonus. I mean, of course they're going to say that. Everyone,
they
make more.
It really
they
is.
get more money and get raises and it's stuff. How about Keats getting fired? Which I didn't have a problem with.
No, people that I trust, like on social media, like this had to happen. Last year was a total outlier.
Right. But absolutely. But by making the Final Four, it then triggered an extension, so they got to pay him $7 million. But then they sucked again this year, though.
Yeah. All right, we'll get into the NBA up next. I think we had two strong examples of who the most valuable player in the NBA is, really, over the weekend. We'll run it down for you next.